Welcome back, folks. This is podcast number 2 with Ted Dinsmore of SphereGen. We're talking about AI and a couple case studies that he has to discuss about how his business has been helping his clients.
Yeah, so I want to start out a little bit about generally what people are using AI for in business. And I know you've probably attended a number of these events where people are like, the concerns about AI and everything, but we are really seeing it being a useful tool, just like we were talking for Industry 4.0. And one of the ways we're seeing it is just freeing up people's time with paper forms.
Mhm.
This is just an age-old problem in technology. I've got a piece of paper and I've got to do something with it, right? How do I digitize that? How do I make it where it's easy for people to use? And I'll give you a couple of examples. When we're using AI, we're using UiPath on AI here on this one. And it's using a material cert in manufacturing. You familiar with material cert?
No.
Material comes into any plant. It has a material certification with it. So it's a piece of paper. Usually the truck driver has it wrinkled up. There's coffee stains on it, but it's got some really important information about that material, such as what is in the material. And that information needs to be saved and put into a variety of systems in every manufacturer.
And this is a compliance thing too, regulation.
Correct, because when you make a piece, let's say you're making a XYZ pipe, right? You need to say what was in that pipe. What metal did that come of? What are the components when you sell to your customer? So you need to know what is in the material that you're putting into your product. So this comes as a crumpled piece of paper. The use cases we've done a number of times now is just taking that crumpled piece of paper, scanning it in, and then having AI read that. And as we train the AIs, so what happens to that piece of paper then? Right now, the way a lot of manufacturers do it, somebody reads it, somebody puts it in the quality system, somebody else puts it in the ERP system, gets passed around to 4 people to put it in all the different systems it has to be in. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So now let's introduce just digitization, right? Industry 4.0, let's just digitize that. So let's take that piece of paper and convert it, scan it, right? That's what we've done for years. Do an OCR maybe, right? We'll read a little bit of it. And then have it available for humans to actually then put it into those systems. Make sense? So now let's take the human element out of it, or a little bit. We still have what's called human loop to check it, right? But when we take the piece of paper, we scan it, we find any handwritten piece, let's say it's a PO number, for example. On every material cert, there's usually a PO number or some type of invoice number, vendor number, something like that. So we actually scan that, put it into AI. AI then reads it and interpolates what that data is, and then puts in the appropriate system so the human doesn't have to do it. If the AI cannot understand it, well, then it goes to a human in the loop.
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah.
So that's how we're using AI in one use case in material cert.
Okay. What is OCR?
Optical Character Recognition.
Okay.
So recognizing the characters on the page.
Okay, got it.
And if it's a printed character, it's easy.
Right.
But if it's handwritten, it's harder.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, particularly if it's my handwriting.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one good example that we've used AI for. And when we first started using AI, I just want to share this part, was, we were getting like 70% of the time it was right. It was taking us literally 2 months to train the bots on how to do this. Oh, bots, that's a term I probably should explain, huh?
Yeah.
So when you're writing robotic process automation or AI, you're actually replacing what the human does with a web bot.
Right.
So a computer is acting like the human, where the human is putting on their hands on the keyboard. The bot is putting hands on the keyboard and writing that for them. So it doesn't change anything in the back-end systems. Any existing systems are fine. Because you've worked with manufacturers and healthcare, right? It's hard to change the core systems of these companies, right? Sometimes they'll have them for 20, 30 years because they work and they don't need to change the ERP.
It's really disruptive to change it.
It's very disruptive. So what we're doing is training the bots to take place of the human interface to that ERP, that quality system. That nursing system in the healthcare.
It's like a bot layer on top of the older system.
Exactly. And you literally record the screens of the existing system and then put the data into those screens from your document. So I've got a document that bring in material cert. We'll use that example. Actually, it reads the screen and takes the data out of it, out of the piece of paper, puts it into those different systems via the bot.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm simplifying that a little bit, but you got the idea.
Right.
And the other area that we see a lot in manufacturers is document migration. You'll have these documents in all these different systems. I'm sure you've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that material cert, that PO. The PO needs to be over here. It's over here. A lot of older systems. So what we've done is using it for migrating not just documents, but whole data set migrations. Because, you know, if you're switching from one ERP to another ERP, one accounting system to another accounting system, you still got to get that data out of the old system into the new.
Or a company's acquired a new company and they're on different systems.
Exactly. So we're using bots to do a lot of document or data migration. And generally, it's integrating any systems together. I'll jump a little bit into how we use it in healthcare. For me with healthcare, you have an EMR system, but you also have the lab system. You have the emergency system. You have all these different systems that have to share data, right? So what we're doing is writing bots to actually do data integration in the healthcare system.
And EMR is it electronic medical record?
Correct. So another problem that we see in data, as I mentioned, with data integration with these different systems, and particularly in healthcare, you have so many different systems. Think about, we have one use case for med reconciliation. You ever heard of med reconciliation?
Mm-mm.
So it's the idea that it's brilliant that we look at all the patients using this medicine and we say, okay, what's working well? What's not working well? Let's notify the doctors that are using the drugs that are not working well for this group of patients.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? You know, it's more of an education thing, but you got to figure that out. And that's a big AI problem.
Mm-hmm.
But to get that data, we have to get the claims data. We have to get the pharmacy data. We have to bring all these data sources together. And using AI and this technology, we've actually been available to bring all the data sources together and get algorithms that actually provide data back to doctors and pharmacists and say, hey, you want to look at this, you know. Again, we're just providing data to the doctor and the pharmacist to recommend.
Right.
And that's been a fascinating. We've been working with Actual Meds now for over 10 years, developing that system. So I always am amused when somebody says AI is a new term, a new thing. I'm like, it's not, but the term is new.
Yeah.
We've been doing AI type work now for years.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So in our world, we deal with product data all the time. There's customer data, order data, pricing data, blah, blah, blah. But at the core, the big bulk is product data.
Product data, right.
And you would think in 2024 that most manufacturers would be able to present you with their product data and all of the attribute sets, dimensional sizes, thread counts, all that stuff.
No.
They know what it is, too.
Right.
They know all that. The engineers know exactly.
Right.
But they have not been able to make it easy for their partners, distributors, whatever. Now, some of the COVID's changed a lot of that. Obviously, like people had to ramp it up.
Yeah.
But there's still so much work to do in this space right now. Data normalization, data flows, and I think that AI can help solve a lot of these problems. We're playing around with it every day now, but what I think is interesting is that, like other phases of advancement, where you see just a rapid acceleration, it's almost like every month we discover a new and better way, a new tool, or like we're researching, like, oh, well, let's try this. So we're like tinkering all the time in ways that we weren't a few years ago. So it's really fascinating, I think.
Continuous learning, right? We have to keep learning.
Totally.
So you mentioned, how you're dealing with product data with manufacturing. Let me give you one story we did with a food distribution company, and they have, I'm old. They were running on AS400s and mainframes. So you may know what that means.
Yeah.
A lot of the audience probably will not. It's really old. It's 80s. But they also had SAP running part of their business.
Yeah.
And they have Salesforce and all these modern systems. So that data, that product data about what needs to ship where at any given time, particularly when you look at food distribution, it's quite complicated.
Yeah.
And
it also has dates on it.
It has dates on it, absolutely.
Yeah.
like one example, one of the problems is when they do an order modification, like some grocer calls them and says, "Hey, give me 5 more of that." During COVID, that happened a lot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So now they have to. The systems were not designed to modify orders. So what we did was we wrote web bots to actually go and update all the different entities and keep them all in sync when an order changed. You would think that would be, inherent in what those systems did, but never really thought about orders could be modified on the fly.
Right.
Because during COVID, we had to do that. So
Right.
things changed quite rapidly.
Yeah.
And now that's a normal part of their business where customers now expect, like we expect, takeout at the restaurant,
Yeah.
right? Because of COVID, right?
Right.
Now customers expect to be able to modify things quicker, right?
Right.
And so creating those web bots has allowed them to
So
do
give me like an example, like a use case of this technology impacting a customer, let's say.
So I think the manufacturer one and the order processing one are pretty good examples. But let me give you one more. Back in the medical field,
Right.
We had nurses, and again during COVID, that were spending all their time on Excel spreadsheets about all the different components in a room, all the different supplies. Just think about supplies.
Right.
And they had this tracking system, which they tag each component. They tag this defibrillator, all these different components, right? And they had to keep track of all this. Well, what they do, they kept it on an Excel spreadsheet,
Yeah.
right? So what we did was using web bots, we actually went and updated, pulled that data out of there and got it into where they could track it. The web bots could do the tracking, freeing up the nurses to actually spend more time with the patient.
So the web bot is actually like duplicating what somebody might be doing like on a browser
Correct.
or on their desktop computer. And it's just taking those steps they go through and replicate them.
Correct.
And then looking for accuracy patterns,
Correct.
air checking things
Yeah.
as it goes. Right.
And as we've been doing this for now 5 years, we've been really finding a lot of use cases where people are using it and finding more accuracy in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. Think about it, like in claims processing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about it in healthcare, how intense claims processing is.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of back and forth between the healthcare provider, the hospital or the doctor, and the insurance company, right? So we've been writing web bots to actually speed up that process. They know the business rules. When this claim gets rejected, I need to change it to this code because I put the wrong code in.
Right.
So we just write a web bot to do that for them.
Yeah.
And it really speeds up the processing time and frees up people to focus on what people should be focused
Yeah,
on.
that's what we found too. It's like that people are afraid of we're going to automate this and then cut jobs. And you're like, you know what? This person had so much value they could contribute to your company if you just got them away from this busy work that they were doing every day. Now they can be more creative, better customer service. They can call people on the phone. It's fine.
Yeah, one of our CFOs, a small hospital in rural Washington State. One of the CFOs, Lori's her name, said to me last week or a couple weeks ago, said, all of the processing, all the stuff we've done with web bots has helped my financial position with the hospital, but really it's most important, it's made me have happier employees.
Yeah.
And people, hospitals are all like manufacturers, everybody's short of people right now. She's like, yeah, I can't find enough people to order to fix all the issues with the patient care, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I can free them up from sitting behind a computer to actually focus on patient care, it's a big difference to me.
Yeah.
They're happier. That's what they want to do.
That's what they want to do.
Nobody wants to sit in front of a computer, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no one wants to be typing in,
redundant things
over and over
and over
every
again.
day. Yeah,
Right.
And they're not good at it.
No.
They're not as good as a bot.
Right.
They're not as good as a bot.
Accuracy is
So
important.
when I was in San Francisco, they have a pilot program for taxis, robot taxis.
Yeah.
And I rode in a couple of them because, of course, I'm like,
It's fun.
are you going to ride in a robotic car? And I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so what was amazing about it is how immediately normal it felt. Like I got in this taxi. It's a Jaguar. There's a steering wheel.
Okay.
There's a seat for the driver, but there's no driver.
Okay.
The seat's pushed all the way forward.
Mm-hmm.
And the steering wheel, it's got all these sensors on it attached to it. And the car just starts driving.
Right.
It's a driverless Uber, essentially. And it takes you where you want to go. and it drops you off, and it can negotiate traffic. And this guy was going to cut it off, and this robotic car was like, "No, you're not cutting me off." Like,
wow.
like kind of putting a little offense.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Wow, you go, robotic car." And then, after a couple of those drives and talking to people about it later, and I can't tell you how many people were like, "I would never drive in a robotic car." And you're like, have you met human beings?
Yes.
Have you been in a lift recently?
We're air prone.
Did you did you vet the driver of your lifts?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
or your Uber or whatever? No, not to,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what they're good at.
Right.
They're good at
Right.
accuracy. They're good at like removing, errors. I mean, people are dissing on Boeing right now, right?
Yeah.
How accurate has Boeing been for decades?
Yes. Yes.
Once, I mean, it's a massive slip up. The risks are obviously high, but flying on an airplane, which is like a very advanced piece of technology with a lot of backup systems, a lot of robotics involved, right?
Right.
So much safer than driving.
Yes.
So much safer. It's almost as safe as any other way of getting around, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think these systems work, and they're
applying it to business just makes sense. You're going to see. We are seeing it today, and I think it's going to continue and probably increase exponentially. How much we're actually helping, companies and businesses increase their productivity by having computers do stuff that is mundane. I know we've said it before, but I just want to state it again because it really is a basic function. Like computers helped us replace the calculator 30 years ago. Computers are going to help with mundane tasks, right?
Yeah, and hopefully we get to a point where the human inputs are the valuable inputs.
Exactly.
The human inputs are the creative inputs, and they're also double checking things.
Yeah.
And plus, I really think that there's stuff that we haven't even thought of. I bet you in 5 years.
Totally.
If we came back to this room, we'll be like, in 24, we didn't know this was going to happen. We didn't know this was going to happen. Right.
Right. Absolutely.
Like we don't.
Absolutely.
I like to tell people, if I had a crystal ball, I'd be retired. I knew for sure what was going to happen next. I'd be at the casino right now.
Yeah. You bought NVIDIA 3 years ago, right?
I did buy NVIDIA, but I was so poor at the time that
right. Yeah.
But NVIDIA is crazy. So the big picture for me, automation, AI, robotics, neural nets, all this stuff that's not going to go away. We didn't even talk about cryptocurrencies and digital ledgers, and that's a whole
too much to touch on.
Totally
different.
That's a whole other conversation. But that's going to be fascinating to watch that in the next. But in terms of the mission of Verado and how to apply technologies to businesses, particularly, our heart is with the small businesses and the regional businesses. And the manufacturers, the distributors, the service businesses, the trades businesses. The
people that make stuff and do stuff.
People make stuff and they install it. They put it on your house. They fix your stuff. You fix your car. Build your car. This is, none of this is really going to go away, I don't think. The human side of it, I don't think is going to go away. The human involvement, I don't think you're going to see robots putting tiles or, shingles on your house anytime soon.
No.
Not without a human involved, right?
Right.
Maybe.
Never know.
Yeah, who knows? But I think right now where we're at, I think reshoring is happening.
Yes.
I think it's going to continue to happen. I think there's other things involved in that besides, obviously there's supply chain thing. Like we could have another podcast about that. We're running way too thin on our supply chain margins. Like everybody learned that one the hard way, right? The just in time is like, oops.
Yeah.
It's like, now we have nothing, right? But I think the macro trend is that, use technology to make better quality stuff here, or locally, like closer to home, right? So if you're in Europe closer to home. If
Yeah.
you're in China, closer to home, right?
Yeah.
We can all be making stuff and do, fewer cargo ships running around the planet, right?
Right.
Shorter distances between where you make something and where your buyers are. That could apply to agriculture, manufacturing, services. I think all that stuff is going to change.
Yeah.
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 And I think, what you're doing is obviously going to have an impact. I think my message to businesses is, particularly the businesses that we work with,
Right.
is find a good partner.
Yeah.
Don't
Totally.
be afraid of technology.
Yeah.
Embrace it.
Absolutely.
Embrace the new. Do your due diligence. Take small steps.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'll give you an example of a small step. I work at the hospital, and they want to do automation.
Right.
Everybody wants to do automation. But how do you get started?
Right.
So if we can just take a minute and talk about that.
Totally.
It's been fascinating because we've always started out with do 1 or 2 automations at a time. And they've started out saying, we want to broadcast to our entire hospital everything this can do and get ideas about what would be the most effective. And I thought this was a different approach. And some people have done it, but it's been fascinating, all the different people that have come forward that they never thought of, like the cleaning team of how they have to clean, right? That's a big cost to the hospital, right? Oh, we can automate how we order supplies on cleaning. Okay. Why is that a big thing? Well, because, as you said, supply chain, big issues.
Yeah.
So the impact of automation is when you're taking it from not a top-down approach of go automate that, but what could we do as a people in the company, in the business? What should we automate?
Right.
Has been fascinating. As people read about AI, everybody knows about this is out there. And you have people on manufacturing floors, and hospital floors that understand, wow, if we could do that with AI, that would really save us time and effort. And that's been an interesting change that I've seen over the past year or so.
Yeah.
As the AI, buzz has come about, which is great because, rising tide raises all boats.
Yeah.
And it's actually the people doing the work that can tell you what they want to automate.
Yeah.
And that's been really fascinating for us.
Yeah.
So we've learned a lot about how to automate processes, but we're software guys, right? We're AI software guys. What we're really learning about is what the people coming forward about what to automate is really critical.
Yeah. I think with any interaction with humans, it's good to understand what your prior, biases are.
Yeah.
Your prior concepts around
Right.
what's valuable, what isn't valuable. As a service provider, we have to understand our clients' businesses. That can take some time.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
But then once we do that, we can start to add value. But we also gain their perspective.
Correct.
Like what are your pain points? What are your challenges?
Yeah.
What do you perceive needs to be the next most highest priority?
Yeah.
And I might have had a different perspective. We can talk through that. And then
Right.
let's bring in other people in your company that might not be sitting in a management team. They're boots on the ground, right?
But they know how it works.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And they're the ones that can say, boy, if we automate these 3 steps, that would save us a lot of time.
Yeah.
Specifically, small manufacturers, like you said, small hospitals, these smaller companies can really benefit from this technology. It isn't a lot of big companies are benefiting from AI, absolutely.
Yeah.
We mentioned a number of big companies before, but it's the smaller and the medium-sized companies that can really benefit. Particularly now people understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And there was a lot of, we work with manufacturers who wanted to, this idea of selling direct, right?
Right.
Manufacturers selling direct. It's happening, it's going to scale. But there
Right.
was a lot of fear of disrupting pre-existing business relationships,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Which is totally normal. But we've seen changes in attitudes about this.
Yeah.
People are less threatened by it. The manufacturers kind of see it as, well, our competition's doing it.
We have to do it.
It's
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the distributors are like, okay, we've got to bring more value to the game then.
Yeah.
If you're going to sell direct, well, guess what? We can do it better than you. We've been doing this longer. We
Right.
have a big customer base.
Right.
You're going to be better off partnering with us. We got to modernize our processes and make our customers
Yeah.
happy so they continue to buy from us.
Absolutely.
But we have the audience. We have the customers.
Yeah.
You just keep manufacturing, and but we're seeing like these pressures kind of move everybody up.
Yeah.
Like let's improve our processes, build efficiencies. There's a lot of obviously disruptors out there who are coming in and providing great services, but the thing that fascinates me, back to the human side of it,
Right.
is what we like to say is, when you get that first engagement with a client, find out who is your ally on the client side,
Right.
that you can make better.
Right.
Get a win for that person quickly.
Yep.
And get a win for them in the eyes of management.
Mm-hmm.
And listen the entire time.
Of course.
And then that's your stakeholder, that's your ally.
Right.
Find out who the gatekeepers are,
Mm-hmm.
who are actually preventing change or thinking that this is not a good idea.
Right.
And get them in the room too.
Yep. Get their ideas.
Get their ideas.
Yeah, totally.
And then fold those ideas in and make it, and the approach has to be, this is a solution that we're all coming to. We're all coming to this solution together.
Yeah.
And if that's challenging. But
It is.
If you can do that, I think that's also part of the trick.
Yep. Absolutely.
Anything else?
No, I think it's been a great conversation, Matt. Really appreciate you asking me on.
All right.
I really enjoy these conversations. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we're going to have this event in October. Ted's speaking, but there'll be more to come on that. But Ted, thanks for coming on.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Good luck with everything in your business. We'll see you next time.